comedian David Boyle, and I'm quitting alcohol. So I start back up at jiu-jitsu tomorrow. It's time to get started. I've got goals for this year. One of them's to get a blue belt. I don't even know if I have enough time to get blue belt now, but it could be possible. Maybe middle of next year, if I go fucking hard and I don't get injured, I could get a blue belt. But I need to get fucking fit anyway. I am terrified of tomorrow because we're doing 3 rounds of sparring at the end. And I gently walked up the stairs yesterday and I was puffing a bit. I have not been consistently exercising in the last, let's say, month. And I'm starting to feel it. My knees are creaky. I was walking today and I slightly rolled my ankle and there was pain. I was just walking normally. And it was just a tiny, gentle little roll, and it fucking hurt. I just got to get in there. Tomorrow's going to be a tough day, but I'm just going to have to be choked out a couple of times. I've been watching a lot of jiu-jitsu tutorials, so I'm probably already a blue belt, because that's how I learn. I learn through watching, not through doing. That's how I pick up skills. Not through practice, not through repetition. Well, repetition sort of, if you call watching the same video 400 times repetition. It's kind of like the Matrix. I just download it through watching YouTube and then I am able to do it. But the 3 rounds of sparring at the end is going to be a problem tomorrow. And I'm obviously overweight at the moment. But here's the thing. Here's what I've worked out over the last 4 weeks. Because I don't eat sugar, I don't really blow out that much. I'm eating fucking bad at the moment. Like, real bad. Like McDonald's the other night, tacos fucking yesterday. Like, greasy fucking tacos. That was after I had a massive feed for lunch. I'm eating 3 meals a day at the moment, but I've blown out. Like, no one would say I'm in good condition, but I'm not fat. I should be fat for the way I'm eating, but I'm not eating sugar, and that's where the dense fucking energy is. That's the shit that's real hard to lose. But there seems to be a limit to how much weight I put on. Like, with my shirt off, no one would be like, that guy's in good condition. But with my shirt on, people will be like, is this guy an athlete? What's he doing? What's his regiment? But that's not a good thing to know either, because I can pretty much eat anything I want and stay with a half decent dad bod rig. And it's not like jelly fat either. I never realized how much of the weight I used to carry was from sugar. And when I was fat a few years back, it was like that soft jelly fat. It was gross. And that's all just sugar, because now I've got like that hot, like thick fat. You know when you see some of these old Elko like dudes and they've got a beer gut and they fucking whip off their shirt and it's just solid. It's like rock solid. You're like, why is his fucking beer belly the same density as if fucking someone's 6-pack? It's kind of like that now, but it's still gross. So it's all starting tomorrow. This is another thing. Unless you're exercising, it's hard to eat right. They come together. If you're exercising, you want to eat right because you don't want to fuck it up. And if you're not eating right, you're like, why would I exercise? I just had a Big Mac, a McChicken burger, 12 nuggets, large chips, and a cheeseburger. Why would I exercise after that? And I've done that meal since I've been back from India. I've been back from India 10 days or 11 days or something. Or is it 2 weeks? I can't even fucking remember. I've done that Macca's run about 4 or 5 times now. So every second day, I've been eating that Macca's meal and I'm still not putting on crazy amounts of weight. It's startling. Honestly, I didn't want to talk about my rig today. I wanted to talk about trade-offs, like in evolution. Anyway, I'll talk about that tomorrow. I'll talk about trade-offs and my life. Today, you're just stuck with an episode about my rig, and it's Boyle Breaks History today. So you get some rig and you get some education. So this week's Boyle Breaks History, there's no rhyme or reason for this one. It's the Louisiana Purchase. It just popped into my head the other day and I'm like, yeah, all right. What is the Louisiana Purchase and why do I give a fuck? And why have I heard about it a lot? It sounds cool saying it. I think that's why you hear it a lot. The Louisiana Purchase. Remember it? The old Louisiana Purchase. It sounds like an important event in history. And it actually was. So let's get stuck into the fucking Louisiana Purchase. So this is back in the day. Do you need dates? I don't think you need dates. Don't fucking worry about it. You'll hear some names and then you can guess the dates, alright? So this is back in the day. TJ was president of the United States of America, Thomas Jefferson. I think he's the guy who flew the kite and invented lightning. If it wasn't him, it was some other cunt. Anyway, TJ was president of the USA, and TJ was one of the writers of the Declaration of Independence, one of the authors. That's the official word, the author. But he wasn't that much of a fan of the Constitution. He was against big government, big federal government. He thought the states should have more power. And the Constitution, I guess, favored federal government. So he wasn't really into it. Even George Washington and I think fucking Hamilton, Lewis Hamilton or whatever the fucking cunt's name was. I think they made a play about him recently and they used all black people. And they're prancing around singing songs and shit. I think it's that Hamilton. I don't know, that's just hearsay. So Washington and Hamilton started a national bank, and TJ, Thomas Jefferson, he was against it because there was nothing in the Constitution that said the federal government could start a national bank, and he was really against big government. So they got into a fight. Anyway, they created the bank. Anyway, that's beyond the point. So at the same time TJ was doing his thing, there was a little fucking midget over there in France, Napoleon Bonaparte. And he was floating around on a ship, and Haiti had just got their independence from either France or Spain, who knows. I think it was France. And San Domingo or whatever, the country next to Haiti, had fought off the French as well. So the Bone, Napoleon, he sent a fleet of ships back to San Domingo or Haiti to take it back, and they lost. The idea was he wanted to have a base in North America. He wanted a stronghold. But the Haitians and shit fought him off. He went back to France around about this time as well. The Spanish, who owned the chunk of land they called Louisiana, I don't know if the whole chunk of land was called Louisiana at the time, but now that chunk of land is New Orleans, Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas, Colorado, Nebraska, Iowa, South Dakota, Wyoming, Minnesota, North Dakota, and Montana, and a little bit of Canada. That was the land. It goes from the very bottom of the USA to the very fucking top. It's like the whole center of the country going from north to south. It's a big fucking chunk of land. So it was actually in Spanish control. And then in the dark of the night, the Spanish sold it or gave it to the French, because what happened earlier was the French, King fucking Louis number whatever the fuck he was from France, gave it to his brother or cousin or someone, some relative in Spain who was also the King of Spain. So the King of Spain and the King of France were related. All these kings and shit, it's so fucking shady. Anyway, the King of France gave it to the King of Spain, and all these years later, the King of Spain gave it back to France. And this freaked TJ out, Thomas Jefferson, because the French immediately banned Americans from fucking traveling in that territory, which included the port city of New Orleans, and that was a very important fucking location for the new Americans. So Thomas Jefferson was like, we need to get New Orleans. We need to get Louisiana. So he sent a couple of his disciples over to France to speak to the Big Bone to organize the sale of Louisiana to the US. They didn't even think they were going to be able to buy it off him. But when they got there, the Bone, he was like, I guess he was demoralized from the Haitian fight, but he was also planning an attack on England as well, and he needed some money. So instead of just selling New Orleans to the Americans, he's like, take the whole fucking bit of land. It's like 870,000 square miles or something. He's like, take it all, $15 million. $15 million for the whole middle of America. That's a wild deal. I think it was like 3 cents an acre or something. So these two guys, I think one of them was Monroe. He ended up being an American president. They're like, Bone, it's a deal. They come back to America, and there was a little bit of a problem because there was nothing in the Constitution allowing the federal government to buy foreign territory. So TJ, the kite flyer, was in a little bit of a pickle. He tried to get the Constitution amended to allow him to purchase Louisiana, but the Senate or Congress were like, no way, no deal. And then TJ went against all his morals and the shit he'd been preaching for the previous decade and said, fuck you, I'm buying it anyway. And he purchased Louisiana, doubling the size of the US in one fucking hit. It's pretty wild because you always think of the US being the United States of America as a whole, but it's just a fucking mishmash of thrown together bullshit. So the whole East Coast was the US, then they bought Louisiana, which was the center of the US, which is right next to the East Coast, but California and all that was still fucking like Spanish and Mexican and shit. Texas and all that was still Mexico. Florida was Spanish or something. It wasn't until later down the track it all got put together. America's a wild place. It's more of an idea than a country. So that's the Louisiana Purchase. Thomas Jefferson bought it off fucking Napoleon Bonaparte for 15 million smackaroonies. And yeah, the rest is history. Boyle breaks history, in fact. Anyway, that'll fucking do for tonight. If you're enjoying the podcast, give it a share around, and I'll see you the fuck later.